A senior Russian military delegation arrived in Israel today for talks today with the Israeli IDF counterparts. The two military forces are keen to arrive at a formula whereby they will avoid mishaps while operating in the skies of Syria. Russia recently deployed 28 combat planes and advanced anti-aircraft units in the war-torn country, ostensibly to fight ISIS, but also to bolster the regime of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Moscow also announced that it was taking steps to boost its naval presence in the eastern Mediterranean starting this month, with exercises off the coast of Syria. The IDF is keen to preserve its relative freedom to operate in the skies of Syria when necessary without Russian interference. The idea of the military summit was raised during a meeting in Moscow last month between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Well, joining me now in the studio is Danny Grossman, a retired lieutenant colonel and jet navigator in the Israeli Air Force. Thanks for joining us, Danny.
Pleasure to be with you.
So is Russians in Tel Aviv to discuss cooperating with Israel and flying over Syria? That's unprecedented.
Well, it's unprecedented if you think we're not used to it. You remember, countries all have their own interests. So people are going to do what they deem to be in their best interest. And if it means bringing forces to an area close by to us, to our next door, so they're going to be doing that. The key word here is to deconflict, to avoid the possibility for any mishap, exactly as you just said.
Well, what are some of the risks? What could happen?
Well, the risks can happen could be things through a lack of coordination. No one's talking about cooperating because, like I said, people have their own interests. But things can happen in either both planned or even unplanned ways. If you look back at the history of our area, if you look back to 1967, when Israel mistakenly and tragically bombed a U.S. plane, a U.S. warship, the USS Liberty, that was a tragic mistake. And yet, it's something which could have been avoided had there been proper coordination channels. We're trying to do things right now which are very, very difficult. Just yesterday, if you look at the newspaper, the Turks and the Russians had a little bit of an interesting tete-a-tete over their skies there, and you're going to have problems when you have so many airplanes in a small area. Everyone wants to have their power to work freely, and the idea is to prevent both purposeful and coincidental or mistaken events.
Well, you know, Israel and the United States have great interoperability, but Israel and Russia don't have that. How's that going to happen?
Again, no one's looking to create a new world order where everybody talks with everybody. What we are trying to do very hard, and I think it was a brilliant move by the Prime Minister to go and raise this issue with Putin in their meetings, and as a result having an immediate meetings here in Tel Aviv. I think it's important that everyone is at least on the same page to avoid that. There was a brilliant, in my own career, I actually debunked the myth of the Liberty. It was a TV show about that not too long ago. And there's a U.S. federal judge named Jay Crystal who quotes a United States three-star general who says, "Never ascribe to malice that which is more easily explained by stupidity." Mistakes can and will happen, especially when you have people with very lethal weapons operating in a small thing. We are intensely keen on avoiding any possibility for mistake or any type of problems that could happen because of a lack of coordination.
Well, I hope it works out. You know, Danny, I also understand that you were very involved in something called the Space IL, which is Israel's entry into the Google Lunar X. What is that?
Well, Google announced several years ago a competition, a free competition to anyone private to try to land something on the moon. To take this glass of water, if you can take this glass of water, shoot it off the planet Earth and land on the moon, then move it 500 meters, transmit back HD high-definition pictures to Earth, you've won $20 million. So an Israeli team of 3 brilliant young scientists said, hey, we can do that if the rest of the world can. Originally, there were 33 teams that registered for the competition. Today, we're down to less than half of that. And interestingly enough, the Israeli team, which I've helped mentor from the get-go. I called myself the older gentleman in the room with all these 3 young, brilliant people, has reached a fantastically dramatic point in their development.
So what's going on
What's
with them?
the point? I can't exactly say, but I can say stay tuned. Tomorrow at President Rivlin's residence, there's going to be a dramatic announcement of a major achievement by this group, and we hope that this will help us win the first prize and achieve this.
Why is it so important for us to get to the moon with a little satellite?
Great question. Again, people haven't gone back to the moon, certainly not in a manned mission, but even in unmanned. The United States, and of course the Apollo missions, and then the Russians and the Chinese, major superpowers, have hit the moon. Israel wants to be the next power after doing that, and of course this sends a major, major message to the entire world as where Israel is, branding Israel as the startup nation, as the high-tech power, which can really do terrific things. And beyond that, this we hope to have what we call the Apollo effect. After Apollo, hundreds of thousands of kids in America started learning sciences and technology. We hope that by succeeding in this, the Space IL, which is a private entity, will win the prize, and all that money will go to science and technology in the educational system, and we will inspire. Space IL has already, in the last 2.5 years, met with some 300,000 Israeli youth. So we're hoping to promote that and the excitement and fire the imagination of all these people.
Sounds fascinating. Danny, thanks so much for joining IBA.
It's a pleasure.
Turning to sports, in the Israel